Join us in the Bear Den, a real-life, real-love podcast celebrating the joys and challenges of parenting, family dynamics, and unconditional love.
Hey friends, welcome to another episode of the Bear Den podcast. Today I have my beautiful friend Haleigh Howland in the studio. She is going from Rockstar to rocking mom, and she's going to tell us her story. Haleigh, thank you for coming in.
Of course. I'm glad we finally got
a chance.
I
know. So as strange as this sounds, I was actually telling Nick this, literally 20 minutes ago, that when I came up with the concept of the podcast, I had a list immediately of people that I wanted on the podcast, right? And your name has always been on the list. I wanted to actually, and I wanted to give it a period of time before I brought you on, because I actually wanted you to be in the swing of being a parent.
Yeah.
Like when I started the podcast 4 months ago, if I brought you on like within the first couple of weeks, you're like, I haven't really been doing this that long. I don't know I don't know what to talk about. But I wanted to give you a little seasoning period. Just like, oh, actually, I can talk about some parenting shit because I've done some shit.
Yeah.
So I'm really glad to have you on because you and I are literally in the same boat. I would say your boat is probably a little bit more difficult than mine. In fact, probably a lot more difficult than mine.
Just different challenges.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Because
very different.
The kids' lives that I stepped into were 1 and 3. You stepped into a 12-year-old and a 16-year-old.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Holy shit, Sister Sue. I even said to Nick earlier, I was like, I'm probably going to be calling Haleigh in the next year or two. Like, how do I deal with a teenage girl?
Yeah.
I don't get this.
Help.
So let's dig into this. I want to talk about you as an individual and your childhood leading up to who you are and then into where you are, which is, as you said, with the life partner of Dr. Nick Howland, stepmom to Isabel and Rockwell, and all those sort of things. So take me back. Let's go back to little Haleigh. You were raised in a very what I would say is a very multicultural home. Your brother is gay.
Yeah.
Your dad is Australian.
Yep.
There is a clash of cultures coming all over here. So what was life like growing up for Haleigh?
Life was actually pretty, for Utah, we have a very small family. It's just me and my brother.
Okay.
My mom was raised LDS and had left the church pretty early on in her life.
Okay.
My dad moved here to the U.S., to Utah, when he was 16. He actually ended up moving back with his family when he was 18 for a period of it was like about a year, I think, because his mom she was lonely. She was not happy here. So as soon as he graduated, they moved back to Australia. My parents just kept in touch, sending cassette tapes to one another.
God.
Yeah, because long distance phone calls were too expensive.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
sending cassette tapes, that's some old school long distance dating right there.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
So they did that for a while, like letters, cassettes, all that stuff, and then he moved back. He just worked and saved up his money and moved back by himself.
Yeah.
My mom was going to Weber State to get her teaching degree. And he lived in Salt Lake and was going to school at Slick, and then they would just see each other. Like he'd go to school, he'd work during the night, he would drive up to Ogden for a little bit, drive back down, go to he's always been just constantly go in order to make the relationship or family or all of those things work.
Yeah.
So he definitely instilled a very hardworking mentality in me.
That's great.
So
that's great.
They got married at 20, had me at 25, had Garrett at 30. So there's a 4-year gap between my brother and I.
Okay.
And growing up, I was always doing something. I was always on the move. Both me and my brother were constantly in some sport or some extracurricular or something. I played soccer. I did acting. I took singing lessons. I tried to throw guitar in there at some point, and it just didn't. Like I was like,
okay, little Miss Overachiever.
Yeah.
Holy man, you're like a one-man walking band over there.
It was hard. I was go, 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 but it was very much.
What was that for? Was that because of what your dad had instilled in you, just like go, 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 or was there something else driving that?
There was a little bit of this. So when I was in elementary and when I was going to school, I was in what it was called ALPS. It was the Accelerated Learning Program.
Okay.
So it was you had to test into it.
Okay.
And my mom, being a teacher, she was always trying to make sure that we were on top of our shit. We were always, doing something. And I don't know if it was necessarily I wouldn't say it was for appearances or anything like that, but it was very much like she wanted us to always be reaching like the highest,
the next level
of what we could do. And so I loved all of the things that I chose to pick up and do. School was like bottom tier for me. I was a quick learner and I was a great tester. So I never turned in my homework. So I just learned the shit and
we are so freaking similar. I don't think I turned homework in for like 4 years in school. Like, where's your homework? Whatever.
I don't know. Lost it. I did it. I know what I did.
But here's my problem. The difference between you and Haleigh, I still came out of school not smart. That's the problem. I didn't do any homework because I couldn't be bothered, and I also didn't come out with good grades. So there's a difference here. So
no. Yeah, and I did want to. I strived to impress my parents and to be, everything that they wanted me to be. So there was a little bit that was not
pressure there for you to just always be achieving?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There definitely was in our family, but I don't, some people would take that and maybe have some, I don't want to say some trauma behind it, but maybe a little bit. And I don't think that it didn't cause any kind of riff or anything like that in our family or family dynamic. It just was what it was.
Yeah. I love the fact that, I talked about this. We have so many similarities, and we truly do. Your dad being Aussie, and me being European, and all that sort of stuff. We have so many cultural little things that we connect on. Mm-hmm. As you were growing up, obviously, you said your brother Garrett was 4 years younger than you, correct? Mm-hmm. As you were growing up, what was your relationship like with Garrett? Were you super close as kids with that age gap, and you being the older girl and him being the younger boy? Was there did you get on pretty well? Like, what was the relationship?
We got along fine.
Yeah.
But we weren't close.
Oh, really?
We really didn't get close until probably his late 20s, my early 30s. Okay. After high school, I moved to LA for a couple of years and went to an acting conservatory out there and graduated, and then moved back in 2008 when the economy crashed. Mm-hmm. I was already in a relationship. We were doing long distance.
Were you sending cassettes?
Yeah, no. Thank God for cell phones and texting at that point.
Seriously. God, I can't even imagine trying to record a cassette and then turn in the side and, I didn't want to say that. Record. Yeah, record, delete, record, delete. And then you've recorded it over like the Smash Hits pop radio that you recorded the night before. That's so bad. Talk to me about, I want to get into the parent. I love knowing who Haleigh is and the upbringing that Haleigh has, because I think it features so beautifully in who you are today. The one thing that obviously that I want to talk the most about is becoming a parent. Mm-hmm. Like me, you became a parent overnight. Yeah. You met a guy, he's kind of good looking, has good hair.
He's got good hair.
He's got good hair. He's a little bit of a dish. But he has children. He has a 16-year-old and a 12-year-old, not they were what, 15 and 11, I think, when you met
Yeah.
Nick. What was your feelings about dating a man who had older children? There was a divorcee, has older children. What was your feelings going into that? Was there any worry or?
I had, at the point of my life, so I'm 37 now. I was 36 when we started to date and to talk. And the person before Nick that I dated had a son as well, but he was a little bit younger.
Okay.
And so I got a little taste of that. And I assumed, just given age, proximity in Utah, like, you're going to date somebody who has kids. There's very little chance of that not happening. And if you do date someone who doesn't have kids, you've got to realize that I've never wanted kids of my own. And so I didn't want to date someone who hadn't had children, but still was holding out that hope.
Yeah.
So it was actually an easier stretch for me to date someone who had a little bit older kids, because Nick was at the point where he's like, I've gone through the muck and the mire of having young kids and not really having the ability to go and travel or do what I want. Now I don't want to step back into that role again. So he was actually really, it was actually a really perfect fit in that way. I knew there would be just the parenting challenges. And one of my biggest kind of hang-ups, and this is a me thing for sure, is that people would assume that because I don't have kids of my own, I can't parent, or I don't know how to, or I'm not going to be good at it.
Yeah.
And I think if you're good at teaching people, humans, and good with interacting and dealing with people who are, kids are just small humans.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can figure it out. You can
figure
pick
it
it
out.
up, and it's all on the fly.
Yeah, there is no book.
No.
I think I've said this on every podcast. You literally get a book of parenting. Page 1 says, congratulations, you're a parent. Page 2 is blank.
Yeah.
So is the rest of the book. Write your own script. Like, you people are like, oh, yeah, my parents told me how to parent. Well, do you want to parent like your parents did? No, hell no. Write your own book. Yeah. You may take a little paragraph from what your parents did, or a statement from what your parents did, or a thing that they did, but that book's yours, baby. Write it.
Yeah.
And guess what? When you have when your kids have kids, you give them a book that says, congratulations, page 1, you're a parent. Let them write their own. You just got to let people find their own way. So you're right. A lot of it's on the fly. It's all micro decisions after the micro decision,
Yeah.
I want to touch back on, before we go into you being a parent today, I want to touch back on your decision around not having children.
Yeah.
Because that to me is really powerful, to meet a woman in her mid-30s who's like, I don't want kids. You meet a lot of women later on in life that have had children. They're like, I don't want any more children. But for a 30-year-old to turn and say, I don't want to bring life into this world, like, where did that come from?
It's just not ever been like a really deep-seated need for me. People talk about this whole biological clock thing, or, it just never, biological clock never started ticking. I don't know. And for me, I was very much of the mind of, like, if I am not 100% set with a partner who I believe would be a good parent and a good person to co-parent with, and who wanted kids of their own. And it's funny because all of the people who I have had relationships with were not people who wanted children of their own anyway. My ex-husband, he is remarried and has 2 stepkids. Never wanted kids of his own. And that might have changed after the fact. I don't know. I haven't kept in touch with him. My ex-boyfriend had a kid, but it wasn't ever in his like frame of reference. It was just it happened.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know if I would say that I did that intentionally, but I also I'm really glad that they didn't, because then, you know, sometimes you don't want to end up stuck or tied to someone for life just because of a kid that you've had together. And I was very much of the mind, if I am not 100% like sure that I want to do this, it's probably the biggest commitment you could ever make in your life, more so than getting married to someone, more so than starting a business, buying a house, any of these things. So if I'm not 100% dedicated to that idea, then I should not do it.
Yeah, 1,000%. Yeah.
So it just never struck me as something that I needed to do.
Has your opinion or mind ever changed down the road, like in seasonality or timing or life or circumstance, where you're like, okay, I'm starting to lean into this kid thing, maybe not so much? Has it ever faltered, or has it always just been a nope?
No. I've thought about, like, there've been like little blips when Nick and I started dating a little bit, and I'm just like, I don't feel it in my gut. I just don't feel that in my gut. And he has also said he has seen me with my dog and how much of a helicopter mom I am with my dog. And he's like, holy shit, if you had a child, you would be psychotic. So
fair enough. Okay.
Well,
Okay. Fair enough. Do you think that, and maybe you've never thought of this, and I've just thought of this, so do you think that with you not having, like you said, the biological clock, the internal core in your soul need to be a parent, do you think that helps or hinders or creates another point of contention in being a parent now? Because you're a parent now, but you're not internally, biologically wanting to be a parent, but now you are in a position where you have to be.
yeah.
So do you find yourself struggling with feeling like a parent because you've never wanted to be one, but now you are one? You know what I'm trying to say? Like,
Yeah.
does that play with you or pull with you at any times, or do you struggle with that?
I don't know that I struggle with it. I think there was maybe a little struggle with connection at first, but I also think that had a lot to do with just the situation of coming in with Nick having a relationship that had ended fairly recently, and his kids being a little more hesitant to welcome someone else into their lives with open arms. I know that was a big thing with his daughter. She's 16 and has gone through a few relationships that hadn't worked out, and was naturally a little more hesitant, which totally made sense. And I think that might have fed itself a little bit more with my a little bit of hesitation, or just not being sure of where my first step into this was.
Yeah.
Because it's been probably just over a year since I first met the kids. And yeah, the first probably 6 months were a lot of just figuring out where
your place is.
Yeah.
So fast forwarding now, you've like you just said, you've been with Nick over a year. You've been in the kids' lives for a year. And understandably, like you said, Nick has had previous relationships, previous marriage, obviously, which he has the girls from, a previous relationship which ended very painfully for Nick and for his children, or your children, should I say? I apologize. What did you do coming into that relationship? Because obviously you knew where you were with Nick. Nick knew where he was with you, and obviously that is something everybody in life still figures out every day.
Yeah.
Iterations of a relationship, you get, whatever. Coming into the relationship with Nick, knowing that his past relationship had hurt the children so much, what did you put into place to assure them that this is different?
I think a lot of it was time, but the biggest thing that he and I both did was to have meaningful conversations while the kids were just in the car or in the kitchen, or we're at dinner, just having really deep, meaningful conversations where they could see where we were and that it wasn't just another relationship. And showing them, because I always have believed like the best way to teach your kids about having a healthy relationship is to show them a healthy relationship.
Yeah, 100%.
And so from the get-go, I was like, oh, that has been kind of our creed from day one, is to have the best, healthiest relationship we can, because we both come from places where we did not have that in the past.
Yeah.
And the next step was just to model that.
Yeah, yeah. I think that is such a powerful and profound statement, that to have deep and meaningful relationship conversations or life conversations with, like you said, the kids in the car, the kids at the dinner table. They don't have to necessarily partake in the conversation, but if they hear in this instance, their dad and his girlfriend talking about life, legacy, the years to come, these things, they're like, oh, that's a really, wow, they're talking about the future. Okay, this must be something real. It's not a whim.
Yeah.
So I love that you do that you're having these forward, future thinking conversations with the kids in the car to enable them to feel safe, that you're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
And I said this to Nick on his podcast when we were talking about, it's unfortunate for you, and I truly feel for you actually, because you came into the relationship with Nick with love and expectations of happiness and all these, and like, I'm going to do all these, I'm going to have this amazing thing, but at the same time, you were also, it was against you from what happened in the past. So the kids already had their backs up about another dad dating another girl because they'd been hurt before. So they'd already retracted. And that's so unfair to you, because you're already behind the eight ball. You know what I mean? Like I'm already in the negative here, and I'm trying to get into the positive, and I'm starting in the negatives. I'm not even at zero.
Yeah.
So you've not only going to show the girl or the kids who you are, but you've also got to show them who I am and how I'm different from X. You know what I mean? So fair play to you, Haleigh. You've come into this and just been like hit by a 2x4 of parenting.
Yeah.
And with teens. I had a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. They couldn't talk. Life was great. I was like, oh, you want to hate me today? Great. You can sit in your own shitty nappy for an extra 20 minutes. You know what I mean? Like, you've got kids that are like verbally telling you what they feel and what they think,
Yeah.
What are some of the biggest struggles you've had? Just in general, not necessarily specific things, but what's some of the biggest things?
The biggest thing really is coming in and being an adult presence and trying to just make things flow as far as the house and making things easy for everybody, and not like trying to take over, the role of being their mother or their mom, because they have a mom.
Yeah.
They don't necessarily need or want a second one. So I think the dynamic is a little bit different from younger kids, because your evolution with being Matt to Matt daddy to dad is a big change. And I don't know, and I don't necessarily think that I need them to ever call me mom or anything like that.
Yeah.
And looking at Nick's relationship with his step parents, because they came into his life when he was a lot older, and how, you know, they view their step parents and stuff like that. I don't think they call either step parent mom or dad or, you know, anything like that. It's they call them by their
by
name.
their name. Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm my kind of gut feeling at this moment is that's probably how that is going to continue.
Are you okay with that?
Yeah, and I'm good with that. It doesn't have to be like, I don't have to be mom. I just need to be Haleigh and just need to be their friend, but also someone who that they can come to for advice, but that they also know that if I need them to do something, or if I'm asking, or if I'm telling them, hey, I don't think that's a good idea, that it's not coming from a place of like trying to be their parent, but I am an adult that's in their life that they need to kind of, I don't know if respect is the right word, but kind of.
Yeah. No, they have to respect you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's not true. They don't have to. They can choose to respect you, but
Yeah.
I think it's right that they do, because at the end of the day, you're gonna be married to their dad. Like, you're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
And I think from what you said, I think it's important for you to look at yourself as, I heard you mentioning, well, I'll kind of be their friend and there if I need them. I think you need to look at it as like, no, I will be here for you as a mother if you wish to have me as one. I'm going to love you as a mother. I'm going to discipline you as a mother. I'm going to care for you as a mother. Whether you choose to call me mom, mother, or nothing at all, that's totally fine. Yeah. It doesn't mean I'm going to love you or less than a mother would.
Yeah.
And that was something for me from the get-go, when I was like, okay, well, I'm not their dad. They have the biological dad. They see their biological dad all the time. We have split parenting. And when I was kind of just going through my iterations of like, who am I? What am I? You know, what am I going to be called? How do I fit into all of this? And I was like, you know what? I freaking love these kids, and I'm just going to love them like a dad. And whether they accept that, whether they call me dad or call me Matt or call me something indifferent, whatever, I'm going to love you like a dad until you can do with that what you wish. You can either love me back as a dad, or you can just love me as Matt. Yeah. But I'm going to love you like I'm your dad. Because that's the role I fill in this house. I'm not your mother's husband. You know, I'm not your mother's life partner. I am your father. Yeah. You know, and that's how I see myself. So, but like you said, with kids being older, they're gonna test the waters. They're gonna push. They're gonna poke. They're gonna, hate you one day, love you the next. And I've seen the kids with you, and you and Rockwell have such a beautiful relationship. That little stud just nuzzles into you and loves on you. And
yeah, I mean, even last night we were just hanging out, and I came up. Gosh, I think we had been running around like chickens with our head cut off yesterday, and we were just sitting on the couch for a minute. Nick and I were both reading, and I had stepped out to like let the dog out or something, and I came back, and Rockwell was just like hanging out on the couch with Nick, and he'd asked him to help him do something on this app. And so he just kind of sat there and like just chilled with us for like 20, 30 minutes, just hanging out, just wanted to hang, just wanted to chill. He's gotten this thing where he'll start to go like, if you step outside of the room for a little while, he'll go and hide from you. And he had asked me, he's like, oh, do we have like weights around the house? Because he's wanting to bulk, because he wants to play football.
Because he's 12. He wants to bulk.
Yep.
Okay.
So I was like, yeah, I think we got a set of hand weights around. So I went and grabbed these little 15-pounders we got and brought them out. And I walk out, and I'm like, where's Rockwell? And Nick's sitting on the couch. He's like, I don't know. Went back downstairs. And I'm like, I was going to grab the weights for him. He just asked for him. And Nick's like, you know how he got a weird hair and wanted to go back down and play games. And I'm like, bullshit. And so I set him down, and I'm like, he's hiding again. And Nick's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And I turn around, and like there we had this pile of blankets, and he's hid there before, and I see it like, and I'm like, Rockwell, you got to pick different hiding spots, dude. And he's like, you just hear him go, oh. And this is like, oh.
Shit, you saw me.
But he's like, he's always, the first time that he met me, where we actually like sat down and got to know each other a little bit. We were out to dinner with a couple of Nick's friends, and he's sitting there eating his Alfredo and just looks up at me and goes, "You know what's the cool thing about you, Haleigh?" "Oh, yeah, dude, what's up?" He goes, "You don't have any annoying kids like those last girls had." And I'm like,
Dialed in.
Cool. All right. We're going to get along just fine. So he's, kind of from the get-go has been a little bit more, there's been a little bit more ease with it. But yeah, I think a lot of that has to do with age too. He's just of that age where he's still a little bit more free-spirited and a little more malleable and just a little bit more just easygoing. And I think that's also a younger child thing too. When you're an older kid,
and I think young boys too, they tend to gravitate towards female figures, and they want the love and the attention and the the whatnot. They gravitate towards that female, the female energy, right? And then you got Isabel, 16, who's just like, So how's your relationship with Isabel?
It's come a really long way.
Yeah.
I know, she just had her hackles up a little bit, just was a little more reserved and a little bit more kind of wanted to play it by ear and not really get invested until she knew it was the real deal. I think over the summer there were a lot of just challenges as having a younger a young teenage girl that Nick was going through, that I think she saw that I was just right there with him, like whatever was going on. Like, we don't argue about, how he's raising the kids. It doesn't become this huge, big blown out. We never had big blowout fights either. And so I think she was kind of waiting for this other shoe to drop of when is this going to turn
Because I've seen this pattern before. Yeah.
And
do you think she held back from getting to know you because she didn't want to get hurt again?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
I think that was probably the biggest part of it. And over the last, I think there's been a big shift over the last 2.5 months when cheer started up. She saw that I was coming to the cheer games with Nick, that her mom has also realized this is not just another flash in the pan. This is a really good, healthy relationship, and that it's that I'm not going anywhere. I think seeing that dynamic shift a little bit has also helped her open up a little more.
Yeah.
And there's still day-to-day things.
Oh, always will be.
But yeah. But I think it's definitely shifted a lot more. I think we're actually going on vacation with the kids and my family over Thanksgiving. And it's going to be the first big time that we're all going to be really hanging out together. Because we, in Powell, the kids were often doing their own thing the whole time. And, we'd take them tubing and everything like that, but there's still a ton of other kids around. They're playing, they're having fun, they're socializing, and so are the parents. Yeah. And so it's just a different dynamic. This is a family vacation.
Yeah, that's going to be a real test, I think what's really beautiful about you and what you bring to this is, and I don't want to take any credit away from Nick and all the work he has done, because he has done a shitload. Trust me, I met the guy over a year ago, and we unpacked a lot. Yeah, myself and Nicholas, both about each other.
Yeah,
I think the one thing that I see in you and that others see in you, and I hope that you see this too, and I know that one day the kids will, is you make Nick better every day. You really do. Nick has done a freaking lot of work. But then there's also what I see in you is you still push him to be better. Nick, that was a stupid decision. Let's talk about that. Let's be better.
Yeah.
And so I think it's really healthy for the kids to see, we've seen Dad prior to Haleigh. We've seen Dad trying to fix his stuff and work on his stuff. And now he met Haleigh and she's still enforcing that work and that change. And I think that, you know, and I'm saying this without, Nick doesn't need to be enforced, but you do bring things to Nick, which is like, well, why are we still doing that way? Yeah. Can we work past that and get through this and do this differently together? And not singular, and let's make this work, right? Yeah. And so I think when the kids look at you, they're like, okay, well, she's in our lives, she's marrying my dad, but she seems to always want to make us all better. And, you know, you're working on yourself, Nick's working on himself, you and Nick are working on yourselves beautifully. Andrea and I, we literally only spoke about this the other week. And I actually wanted to share this with you, so it's great that I'm doing it on my podcast. But we were actually talking the other week. Andrea and I have been married 10 years next year. 9 years this, 10 years next. And she came back, she's like, you know, I really want to implement the things that Nick and Haleigh do in their relationship. She's like, do you really understand and see the amount of time they take to truly know each other? And I'm like, I don't think I do. She's like, they would take a weekend off and just go get a cabin and sit down and write goals together and vision board together and all this sort of stuff. And I'm like, wow. Yeah. She's like, they're always working on themselves. And the team thing, you know, we've started implementing that. Team is huge. Yeah, we don't do it every day, but we're working on it. And it's something actually when we do, it's like, this is beautiful. And so Andrea and I are learning from you guys, you know, this new relationship of what you're doing. Like, you've come into, the both of you have had past trauma. You're coming together as people who have had trauma. You're now getting through your own trauma and building a life together. And that doesn't just come by saying, I love you. Yeah. That comes by sitting down and doing the work. And you guys are doing the freaking work. Yeah. And I think that will bode you so many more, I don't want to say points because it's not points, but I think in the eyes of the kids, they're going to look at that and be like, yeah, this woman came into our lives. She never left. She loved us. And she made my dad be the best dad we've ever had. Like, you know, and again, I'm not saying that Nick wouldn't do it by himself, but it's very easy to stop the work on yourself. Oh, for sure. But when you've got somebody pushing you, like, hey, remember said we were going to be better? Let's keep going. Yeah. And I think you really bring that. Oh, thanks. I definitely, like, I don't know, I get antsy when I know I'm not improving or when I know things have gotten stagnant or like we hadn't teamed in a while and it just, everything started to feel very clunky for us. There was not this ease and flow that we had before. And we've also, he and I have discussed, like, it's really important to work on yourself by yourself, but you take it to the next level when you have someone who is on your team and who is working on themselves and is also pushing you. Like, I think that is the next step in it for everybody, whether it's a partner or a close friend or, you know, a relationship that you are committed to holding each other accountable. Because at the end of the day, that's what it is. It's just accountability. Yeah. So explain to people who don't know, because we use the term team. Oh yeah. So explain to people that are listening what team is and how you and Nick do it, because I think it's beautiful. Yeah. I can't remember. Nick would know. He remembers the person we found it on Instagram. Okay. But it is an acronym, and it stands for touch, education, appreciation, and metric. Okay. So you sit down. We did it on the way over here, like on the drive. We're like, okay, let's team before we get going. So we held hands in the car. That was our touch. Even if you're pissed off at your partner, you're like still pinkying, walking in with a pinky. There is something there. Education is just what you've learned in the day since we did it first thing this morning. We just said, okay, what did we learn yesterday? So we chatted a little bit about, you know, where we are with what we've learned, and it was a lot of kid stuff this weekend. That appreciation piece is important because it sets you up for the metric really well, and the appreciation is just what you appreciate about the person.
And you can't copy what the other person said. And it has to be different every time. Maybe there are things that come up repeatedly over the course of time that you appreciate, but it can't just be like, oh, I just love you. I just appreciate that you're here for me.
Yeah.
You have to like really
Put some thought into it.
Yeah, really dive deep. The metric is anything that has been, it can be just where you are in the relationship. What's the metric of your relationship? So a lot of times there's not anything big that we need to discuss, but everything else sets it up really nicely and really nice container that if you have an issue you need to talk about or something that's been going on that's been weighing on your mind, that you have a safe container that it's not reactive to talk about.
Yeah.
And that's what's really important, is not to have that reactivity when you are bringing up pain points.
Yeah. I think it's beautiful. Like I said, Andrew's asked to do it for months now, and she's like, I really want to start doing team. I'm like, yeah, of course, yeah. And it just never naturally started. And then we actually just found ourselves just laying in bed one day, and we're cuddling or whatever, and we just fell into it. She's like, and now it's like one of those things we really love doing it.
Yeah, we start out with going, if the other person wants a team and we're just there, what did you learn today? And we know exactly, that's our like cue.
Yeah.
That's, what did I learn today? That's we're teaming. Education.
Do you do team as a family?
We haven't tried it as a family. No, that's a good good suggestion.
I'm telling you, one of the things that Andrew, and we've only started this last month. It's so freaking stupid how it started. The kids are watching Friends.
Yeah.
They're on HBO watching Friends. Andrew and I are watching Friends. They're on season 7. We're on season 3. We watch an episode with the kids. They're all married with kids. You watch an episode by ourselves. They all hate each other and still trying to sleep with each other. Like, we're two different worlds of Friends right now. But what we've decided is every evening, the 4 of us will go get into our bed and put an episode of 2 Friends on.
Nice.
And so the 4 of us, it's like me, the kids in the middle, Andrew on the end. The 4 of us just cuddle in the bed. We watch Friends. Cool. And there's kicking and fussing and, stop moving and all this sort of stuff, right? But it's just the 4 of us bonding in our bed. The reason why we do it in our bed versus the couch is because if we ever have a family meeting where like this is all hands to the pump, we need to have a family discussion because of, whatever's going on in our family life, we do it on our bed. That's our safe space.
Nice.
So we have our family discussions on our bed. We have our family time on our bed. So we start just, doing Friends and watching Friends in bed, and then it naturally just started asking. I'm like, hey boo, how was your day? So I'll start talking to Anna, and we so we just start asking the same questions, but just the 4 of us.
Nice.
So maybe it could be something with you and Rockwell and Isabel that you just, or maybe not the 4 of you, maybe you do the 3 of you, and then next time we do it with just you and Isabel and Nick. But or maybe it's a case of kids, grab some popcorn, grab some candy, grab a blanket, we're all getting into bed, we're all going to watch a movie.
Yeah.
And then when you're in there and you're in that place of like love and warmth, you just kind of tease the questions out and see how they go. And then that could be the thing of like, hey, popcorn and candy, let's go.
Yeah.
It's team movie night.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Maybe it's not every day. Maybe it's just once a week to begin with.
Yeah, I mean, because we have the kids just like you guys, you're, split. But I think it's a great idea. Nick has been starting to do I am statements with the kids.
We talked about that, yeah.
And man, it was like pulling teeth the first little while, but now it's becoming a little bit more natural, and it's beautiful to see them kind of doing it on their own and texting and being like, "Hey, guess what I did today? I did my I am statements." I'm like, "Oh hell yeah!" So like that's powerful. A huge win. Yeah. Such a big win.
But imagine if you did team with them once a week, and then they started doing little team talks to themselves.
Yeah.
Just as they're brushing their teeth, like, okay, what am I grateful for? What am I appreciative for? What's my metric? And you know what I mean? What did I learn today? Like, imagine if Rockwell and Isabel were just doing that, brushing their teeth. Like, this is great. You're having your own little team meeting.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, it just sets up good relationships in general.
It does, but it also may allow you to connect with them in a better way.
Yeah.
Especially if they hear you being vulnerable and talking about the things that you've struck. Like you said at the beginning of the show, having those adult conversations with the kids around allows them to feel like, okay, this is a relationship versus something else. But if you're all laying in a bed together and you're doing team and they hear you share a vulnerability or a grievance, they're like, oh, okay, this is really real.
Yeah.
And they also, you may get some feedback from them of like, well, we don't like it when you do this, or we don't like it when you do that. It really just allows them to give you feedback of what they do or don't like about what you guys are doing.
Yeah, for sure.
So
And again, it holds that space.
yeah, that's all it is. And because you want, ultimately, at the end of the day, kids will go through shit. Our kids have gone through shit with our dynamic. And it's super important to have a place where they can just come and talk. And honestly, we've always... Andrew and I could be in the house, lay on the couch all day. The kids will be doing their own thing. And if one of the kids has a problem, we can sense it, right? It's generally 9 times out of 10 when we're in our bedroom on the bed, they'll come in and that's where they break down.
Yeah.
It's never really in the living room. It's never on the patio. It's never up in their room. A lot of the time, 9 times out of 10, they'll come into our room and can I talk? I'm like,
Yeah.
what's up, boo? Get on the bed. Like that's
Little safe space.
that's their little safe space. Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe
Very cool.
just give you something to connect with them.
Love it.
Where do you go for external support as a parent? Who do you lean into? Because I know you have Nick, but you know you're kind of also trying to find your own feet here and want to be your own parent. You know, so who do you lean into?
I think a lot of it is our friends, Michelle, Andrea, Carissa. We've got great parents. Yeah. In that group, we're kind of the first ones to go in and be dealing with teenage girls.
Yeah.
Because the Sherwoods have 2 older boys, and older teenage boys are, going to have their own craziness too. But teenage girls, like it's a whole other. It is apples and oranges.
I'm not joking. I meant what I said. But I'm like, I'll be calling you girl, but I'm like, how do I deal with a 15-year-old female?
Yeah.
I'm almost there, but I'm like, I need some advice. What do I do?
But it is really important to have relationships to lean back on, and so that like core group of parents is very, very important, and to come from, and I think talking with women about, because the mother-daughter relationship is always such a interesting dynamic. I see a lot of the same stuff, where my mom and I kind of struggled with, and I'm like, oh, okay, like I can see where she was kind of, you see a little bit more, and you try to frame it in a way that instead of being reactive, which I think, a lot of our parents, their generation, that was just what it was, coming from a different headspace, and then being able to bounce those ideas off of other moms is really important. Yeah.
How do you lean into your parents at all for advice on parenting?
Yeah, I mean, they're just really excited to like have some semblance of grandkids.
I was going to say actual human grandkids.
Yeah, exactly.
Furry ones.
Not just the furry grandkids. That there hasn't been a ton that I've come to them with yet, but it's there. I know that's absolutely there, but I think they're just more like they're trying to navigate their own kind of getting to know the kids and not scare them off, and just like let the kids kind of come to them in that same thing, because it's just another level of that vulnerability on the kids' part, and we just are loving them through it.
Yeah, and it's with the kids, especially when you get divorced, get remarried, you interject different families, more family members, and these it's like, okay, well, Haley's parents, are they now nanny and granddad, nana and papa? Like, who are they? You know what I mean? So it's their world has been expanded by you meeting Nick, and then it's a case of it's another expansion again, that the family tree has got bigger, and you have another set of grandparents now, and you have another uncle. You know what I mean? Like, well, it's, you know what I mean? Like, it's so for them. Like, it's like Lily and Anna, they have 6 grandparents. They have Andrea's parents, who are divorced, so you've got 2 there. You've got my parents, you've got their biological dad's parents. You've got Andrea's host parents. Like, the kids literally have 6 grandparents. It's like, oh, shit, kids, if you don't ever think you're loved, holy cow.
Yeah.
You've got 6 parents, 6 sets of grandparents here that are doting on the shit out of you.
Yeah.
Like, if you ever tell me you never feel loved, we need therapy. God almighty.
Yeah.
But it's just all time, you know.
It is.
And for them, like, they're in the first world of being grandparents. Like, what do we do? Mm-hmm. Shit, do we give them candy?
Yeah. Like, they're just sitting there. All my mom is just like, okay, I'm ready. Put me in coach.
I don't have to pet it, walk it, whatever. Like, it hugs me back. I can have a conversation with it. This is Haleigh, this is all I've ever wanted.
Legitimately. And Rockwell is so funny. Nick was asking him about going on vacation to Mexico. Since we're bringing my parents and Garrett, they're like, yeah, you know, how are you feeling about that? Are you excited for the trip? And he's like, oh yeah, I'm going to be the only kid at school that gets to go back and say that I went on vacation with my gunkle. You're like,
hey, silver lining in every cloud.
Dude, he sees, yeah. He just sees the silver and my gunkle.
So good. That is so good.
Because when we introduced Garrett to Rockwell, this was last winter around. Was it winter? Yeah, because we had gone to go play this virtual reality thing, and it had just opened after New Year's, and so we introduced Rockwell to my cousin and his now wife, and to Garrett. And just joking around, I was like, oh yeah, Garrett's your gunkle. And he's like, what's a gunkle? I'm like, your gay uncle. And he's like, oh, cool. And so now it's like his favorite word.
I think that's such a great term. What a great term of endearment. I love that.
So he's stoked about it. And it's just been, just a slow process of just getting to know everyone. Yeah, you're doing it fantastically. You really are. And like I said, I've seen you as you move through this, and I've seen the growth in you. I've seen the growth in Nick. I've seen the growth in the pair of you. I've seen the growth in your relationship and as a parent, and Nick as a parent. Like, I think what you guys are doing is beautiful. It's difficult, but it ain't easy. Holy shit. Anybody stepping into a parenting role that hasn't ever been a parent is not easy. Yeah. And you're right. It's like, oh shit, what am I doing today? How do I deal with the world today? Yeah. Right. But you guys are really doing a great job. And I love watching you become the parent and a more established part in that family, where it's like, I have my place. Yeah. You know? Thank you, man.
Yeah, you're doing beautifully. So as we start to wrap up, I would like Haleigh Howland's lasting piece of advice.
Over the course of this last year, I have seen that it's the most important thing. Like, at first I was like, oh, it's resiliency, like teaching the kids how to be resilient. And I realized that comes because by Isabel's age, I had gone through a lot of shit. I thought it was just that I was just mentally tough, which part of it was, but a large part of it too was just knowing my own worth and my own value and my own self-love. And there is nothing that can't be fixed or dealt with or built upon. There's nothing you can't overcome when you instill that self-worth and self-love. And to really not just assume that it's there, but to have those conversations, do those I am statements, make them say I love you in the mirror 10 times on the way home from dinner. It's been big, and Nick has taught me that. I've seen that shift over the last little while, and that's really where it has come from, is him working on all those things that he's done his own work on. And they go, oh, is this some of your men's group stuff? And they kind of like balk a little bit, but then they do it, and it just makes a massive difference.
It does.
And so that is like the base of the pyramid. Everything else comes after that.
I love that. Wait, I'm laughing because wait until you hear my podcast with Nick.
Oh shit.
He asked me this. He asked me the same question.
Did he?
And my piece of advice was the exact same thing.
Oh my gosh.
It is so bizarre that you said that. I'm like, oh my God, were you listening to my podcast with Nick? I literally said the exact same thing.
Yeah, Dakota and I were just out there having our own little...
Yeah, listening in at the door. Like, what did I say? What did I say?
We're just having our own little conversation out there. That is really funny. We osmosed.
Yeah, seriously. It was like, oh, this is really weird. We're in the same damn podcast. Haleigh, I love you.
Love you,
I
man.
adore you. I'm glad that I have a beautiful female friend who's on the step parenting journey with me, that we can talk to, lean into each other, ask questions of each other, give guidance to each other. And I love the fact that I have a female perspective of step parenting. And I hope I can be a resource to you with the kids.
Yeah, I've learned a lot from you, man.
Yeah, and I absolutely see the benefits and the beauty that you bring to Nick and the kids, and I love that for you all. So, I am going to have you on the podcast again down the road.
The whole evolution.
I want to see the whole evolution. Where's this come full circle? But for now, I think you've been beautiful, and I just really appreciate you taking the time to come on.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate having me.
You're very welcome.
Love you.
Love you too. Thank you for listening to the Bear Den podcast. Please click subscribe and get the updates for our new episodes. And if you feel the need to reach out, you can reach me on Instagram @TheBritBear.